gosh, we've been having this great conversation about purpose. Felice, tell us your perspective of how purpose is so important now at the beginning of the year. We're at the end of the very first month of 2023. What do we need to know?
Well, we need to know that I think it's what 91% of people have already abandoned their resolutions by now. And so I really do think that it's not purposeful or lackadaisical that people have given up on their, resolutions. I do believe that a big part of that reason is that people haven't been able to identify their purpose. And I think that if people are able to tap in and know what their true purpose is in this life, that even if they're not perfect in achieving their goals and, the timelines and the deadlines, that they'll still stay encouraged because they're at least doing something within that purpose. And everything moves us forward if we're able to identify it and get in on our purpose. Everything moves us forward. Now, it may be not as quickly as we would like, and it may be going a little bit more slowly. But once you're able to identify it and do something about it, you're always moving forward. So I think that would really help people because I'm not a big believer in resolutions. No, I'm serious. I think that every day you wake up, if you are afforded the opportunity to wake up, then you can always begin again. And I don't need January 1 to give me the reason to begin again. I got a reason. I opened my eyes, my heart was beating, I'm breathing, so I can do a reset and begin all over again. And so everybody needs to look at, in my opinion, as a new day, as your new beginning. So you don't have to give up and think about the resolution or the fact that you flunked and you're in the 91 percentile. Did you wake up this morning and start all over again? Let's get going.
Yeah, this is very encouraging and inspiring. And are you saying that some people are trying to get it right and they get caught up into, I need to get it right? And so what happens is that they just become paralyzed and do nothing because they're so focused on being perfect that they're like, if I get it wrong or if I fail, that means I'm really not tapping into my true purpose. And so it's almost like this mental loop that ends up stalling. And that's why 91% of people abandon their New Year's resolution within the first month. What do you think's going on there?
So I think that people just think that they have to do things in this order, this proper order. And I do think that people think that it has to. I don't think that perfection comes to their mind, but it really is perfection, right? Like, I want to lose weight. So I bought all these groceries and all these things. But Wednesday night, when I got invited out with my friends, I blew it. So in their minds, right, that's a fail. So no, it's not. Just dust that day off, go back in your refrigerator with the good stuff you bought and start all over again. But they go ahead and throw the whole pot out the window for that one day. And so it is a sense of trying to be perfect in their goals as well. And perfection is not necessary. Perfection is not attainable. Now, excellence is, but perfection isn't. And so you just get back up.
So how does someone go through the process of finding their true purpose? Like some people are just confused. They're like, you know what? I'm not even gonna make a New Year's resolution or any goals for myself because I'm not sure what my true purpose is. How do we identify it?
So one of the things I ask some of my clients is, what is that one thing that you're just naturally good at?
Okay.
Like that you just feel like, is it, my friends always ask me to do their hair or to do their makeup. Or my friends always ask me, can you bring over that dish? Because you are like one of the best cooks I know. Like it's something you don't really think about, but you're just really good at. And then if it's kind of difficult in that perspective, I ask them to go back when they were younger. When you were younger, what was that thing you said you wanted to do or be? And like, this is what I need people to identify, especially parents of young children. We really don't recognize, and they may be doing more so with this generation, that they're just little people that you're to train up but they are real little people that are probably more intuitive about what it is they want to do and be. It's when they get older, we step in and confuse them. But when you were a child, you kind of knew intuitively what it was, that thing that you wanted to do and be. What was that? And then later we can talk about how you went off course with it, because 9 times out of 10, adults came in, heard what you said you wanted to do, and then got scared and thought that you may starve to death or be homeless because, oh, you can't make money at that. But that's not true. You can monetize your gift and purpose. And that's probably what you should be monetizing, because it comes so easy to you and it's natural and it's, to me, a God-given passion. And so you're supposed to monetize that.
That is really interesting. So it's almost like we kind of know our purpose. It's just that some of us are in environments where fear is introduced so that we can disconnect ourselves from this purpose and do what other people expect us to do, instead of having an environment that pays attention to what we're naturally good at and gives us confidence in it. Because it's just really interesting. Like, you know, when you have a lack of confidence in what you want to do, it's all that doubt that's in your head, that's placed in your head, and you believe what people are saying. How could you not believe it? Like, how do you know your name is Felice? Well, it's because your mama called you Felice and you keep responding to it. So there you go, Felice. Same thing with these fears. Like, where did that come from? Someone had to have planted that in you. And then at some level, you hear it over and over again. You really start to believe it, and that disconnects you. That's so fascinating. And I think about my daughter. We're talking about my youngest daughter. I know she's going to be an entertainer because she was 3 years old. And I remember watching the Tony Awards, and she went upstairs and she put on a little fancy Disney costume dress, like Cinderella dress, and she grabbed a microphone. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, I'm accepting my Tony Award." And I wish I had recorded that because I really do believe, and I couldn't understand it. And she was 4 years old, and she was like, she walked up to me and she said, "Who put that baby on that TV screen?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know, probably her mom or her manager or something." She's like, "You're my mom. You put me up on that screen." I mean, this was something that and no one in my family is an entertainer. So we're all looking at her, scratching our head like, where did this come from? It's just natural in her. And so I was able to, of course, recognize that, but it was hard for me to recognize that and support this in her, because nobody in her family is an artist entertainer like she is. So, so I had to stop myself. I can totally see why parents would be thinking, "Where's the money in that, Taylor? An artist? Where's the money in that? You're going to be some starving artist out on these auditions." Then I'm thinking about Hollywood. Oh my goodness, give my child up to Hollywood, wouldn't do it. But I can't plant that in her.
Well, a lot of parents have, and those messages get embedded, right?
Yeah.
In those children. And then what do? You erase their original purpose from their subconscious. And it struggles to give it back to them, right? And so you go throughout life. I think a lot of people are in a whole lot of jobs and industries that they're not supposed to be in. I think a lot of people are not happy because they didn't tap into their purpose and make it work for them.
Yeah, and these are the people, when that fear and that doubt is implanted in them, these are the people, these are the 91% that just abandon it, because this fear and doubt and the fact that you have to really change some of the things you want to do for your New Year's resolution is going to require you to change your whole lifestyle. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming.
Not only that, but we center everything around socioeconomic status. We center everything around money. And so in order for us to be happy, we have to be making money. And then it goes to a certain amount of money. Then it goes to lifestyle. And then it keeps going, going, going. And so there's no end to the fear that it creates, right? Like, I have one client who really, really wants to be a creative. Mm-hmm. But the messages that he got when he was younger about making sure that you're financially stable. He struggles and is in a job that he doesn't appreciate, doesn't like, doesn't want to move up in. He struggles with that because he loves knowing and having that sense of security that his bills are paid, and that this job that is not his passion, that is not his purpose, at least keeps him safe from homelessness. But he really wants to go out and take that risk and do his creative side, but he won't.
Oh God, that feels like being in a prison. It's like you're stuck. And nothing makes you more stuck psychologically than when you accumulate things like people. You have children that you're responsible for. You have a mortgage you're responsible for, a car note,
Health insurance,
health insurance.
all those things that makes you one paycheck away from homelessness, right?
Yeah.
And those fears are real, but you can let go of those fears because fear is just an illusion. It's not real.
It's not real at all.
And so you really are more free than you think, but it starts here in the mind. You have to know that you're free. And as long as you have breath, and as long as you get to see a new sunrise, you have the opportunity to reset and do whatever it is you want to do. And I don't care how old you are. Because another thing our society tells us is that once you get past a certain age, you should be thinking about retiring. You should be thinking about, passing up a time. I don't agree with that. As long as you live, you can do your purpose for as long as you live. And how about share the baton? I don't have to pass something that I'm still doing, but I can invite you in. I can tell you all the things that I learned, right? I can mentor you. I can guide you. I can direct you while we do this together. And I just sail out when I sail out. But we all can do this. And I can still give back. I can still mentor those coming up behind me. But that doesn't mean that I've got to go. As long as my mind is sharp and I'm able to do it and I have the desire to do it, keep doing it.
Yeah, that's inspiring. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, have you ever seen that hospice nurse who wrote a whole book on 5 things people say they wish they had done while they're on their deathbed? Have you seen that? I probably have to look it up. And it really, from time to time, I like to read them over again. I probably should print them out and put them up in my office because it's so great to remind us of what it was. And I really should take some time and look it up. But one of it was, I wish I had chose to be happier. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had spent more time with my friends and family. And all of these wishes, I can't remember what the other ones were, but God, that's so inspiring. And if you hear that, because these are people that's never, ever going to get time back again. Like once you're on hospice, you're going to go down there. No one's going to treat you anymore. They're just going to maybe give you something comfortable for the pain, maybe, but they're just letting you die in a peaceful way. But, recording what these individuals says about their regrets in life, you don't want to walk around. You want to be able to be on hospice one day knowing that I don't have any regrets because I lived every life to its fullest. And I'm looking back on that and I'm happy and joyful that I followed my dreams and did not let fear get in the way.
Yeah. And you've got to fight and struggle with those messages that you hear. And so one of the things I share is that if the messages you hear don't make you feel good, then let them go. That message is not for you. If it doesn't resonate and it doesn't sit well with you, and if it causes more anxiety and fear, then that's not your message. You need to let that message go. And so, and one of the ways to not work as hard is to be in your purpose. Because if you are in your purpose, it doesn't feel like work. And you could do 40, 60-hour weeks and it rejuvenates you, it excites you. It ignites more creativity and innovation. And so that's why it's so important to identify your purpose and do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that you don't know if it happens so much in this generation as it did in our generation. And I agree with you. Some of these young kids coming up, these even younger than millennials, who's the under millennials is Generation
Z, is it Z or
Z? I
something?
think it's Generation Z. I'm gonna tell you, I like them. I
I like
really
it.
like them because they're
Only
like
only thing with Generation Z is that, they're fearless, right?
they are fearless.
I don't know how accurate, because they're the most anxious
They
generation too.
are. They
And
are.
anxiety is embedded with fear. So I think I'm going to call them courageous. Let's put it that way. So to me, courage is moving through fear, or
Mm-hmm.
moving in spite of fear, because they're very anxious, and anxious is fear ridden. But they don't go by any of the things that people have said. If they want to do it, they do it. And they're changing the way corporations, everybody view
Yes.
things. I heard somebody in HR say that now corporations are looking at people who sit on a job for longer than 3 years. Why are you still here? Why haven't you moved up or changed position?
Mm-hmm.
Because they know that people can get stagnant and comfortable when they stay someplace too long. And so these young people are like, no, I'm out. And they'll leave without having another job.
They will. They don't even think they're like it doesn't feel good to me. I'm not. I'm just not doing this. And I've seen like jokes about it, but there's something inspiring about them.
It really is. And they're bringing something new to the table. And that's what instead of judging it, we need to kind of sit back and like, well, what is this about? And what can it achieve? But let's just be fair too and look at all things equal. This is the one generation, and I'm telling you, they're brilliant. All right. And let me tell you why. They think like they're coming back home to live with their parents. Oh, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no. And paying $1,600 rents. Not when I got a family who's been there, done that, and they have a room. They go right back to that room. What does that do? That frees them up.
mm-hmm.
It frees them up to be able to explore all their options fearlessly. Now you had to go out there on your own and make it, right? So you had to put up with things.
Mm-hmm.
Your options were not as big as theirs are, because you had the rent, you had the diapers, you had the the car payments, and they're not even getting cars. They're like biking it, Ubering it. They are brilliant. Do you understand me? And like people are like, oh my gosh, that ma'am, I call that 1+1=2.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. It's like brilliant. And we're so busy trying to judge something, but it works.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was driving downtown with my 15-year-old, and we drove past the Miles Vanderohe building in Chicago. I used to work there. I said I was a network analyst in that building, and I look at it like you made it. You got a job downtown Chicago. You're working in this corporate position. So I was like saying it like I was bragging. She looks at that. She was like, "Ugh, I could never work in a building that looks like that." She was looking at the building. To her was this big depressing black box,
Prison. A
and she was
prison.
like, I could never work. I could never just walk into that building every day and just work there. Oh no, I could never do it. And in my mind, it was like that was the pillar of success. You get a job and you're working downtown in a nice corporate position. That's like all the benefits and wonderful. Like growing up, I saw that as an achievement. I was bragging about it. And she was looking at me like, I feel sorry for you having to work in that building every day. I could not walk. I could never walk in there every day. And I was like, aren't you privileged? I had to pay bills. I had things to do. So that's one of the differences that it was very striking. A second difference is I took my other daughter and a bunch of her friends down to Chicago, and we went to see a musical this weekend. And all of them were in the back talking about going to see their therapist. They were like, I gotta ask my mom to get me this appointment to see my therapist. Well, I haven't seen my therapist in a couple of months, and I gotta make another appointment. Like their whole idea of therapy, which is beautiful, by the way, as a therapist, that they were kind of bragging a little bit about the fact that I have this therapist. And it's like a badge of honor, that I have a therapist that my mom takes me to and I need to go and talk to them. Beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's just, but it was all beautiful for its time.
Yeah.
I mean, because sometimes we can go back and look in our lives and be like, but it wasn't meant. If it was meant, it would have been. And so for their generation, it is very necessary that they have a therapist.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like a socioeconomic status kind of thing. Like, you don't have a therapist on standby? Like, how dare you?
Oh my God. And it's part of the conversation. Oh my God, I got to text my therapist to let her know what's going on. It's just crazy. I didn't have a therapist growing up, but I had Big Mama. Big Mama would pat me up and I sit on her lap and she'd give me money to go to the corner store to buy candy because it was the house store candy back then. I'd buy candy and eat candy and tell her all my problems. And she would pat me up and give me therapy. That was my therapy growing up. It was Big Mama. I don't know where the Big Mamas are nowadays, but
they're young mamas.
Okay.
It's a dip. It's a different Big Mama. Big Mama was, age and, big and these mamas cute.
Okay. All right. It's a difference. Big Mama's gone.
Don't you call them Big Mama.
Oh.
I'm Gigi.
Okay. So, all right. I get it now.
Different twist. She's cute and she's still doing her thing, right? So it's different. Every generation is a little different, but we can learn so much from them. Yeah. And I love their sense of freedom and knowing that just because something was done one way, how do we put a twist on it? Not necessarily getting rid of the old way, but just adding a little flavor, a little twist to it, right? And they have all these great innovative and creative ideas and juices flowing through them that we need. We need that. And so I'm real excited about this for them. And I'm real encouraged with the fact that though they may be one of the most anxious, they are also the most insightful and aware and unashamed to get help. And so that's the key, that if you need help, get the help. And so I applaud them.
And not feeling stigmatized for asking for help. It's like, it's a strength. I need help with this. I'm feeling anxious. Why suffer alone when there's people that can actually help you?
So, but we also have to give ourselves a pat on the back, right? Because we're the generation who are encouraging them and telling them it's okay. Our generation behind us didn't do that.
No.
They didn't tell us to go to therapy. They didn't tell us that it would be okay, right? They just said, suck it up. You'll be all right. Keep it moving. Go pray, right? So we're the generation that said, no, it's okay for you to get help. It's okay for you to reach out for help. And I'm not judging you for it. So kudos to our generation for doing that.
Yeah, and the inspiring part about it is that looking at them be courageous, it's making us be courageous in our own purpose. It's just like, what are we afraid of? And I talk to my clients about what's the worst that could happen. Right. I process things with them about consequences and choices. I said, what's the worst that can happen? Let's write it all down. And I said, okay, don't do it. And then when they come back, I'll be like, wait, we made a list of the worst things that can happen. I said, none of this happened. It never does. And I said, you know what? It never, of all the 20 years I've been as a therapist, I make this list of what's the worst that can happen. And not once has the worst actually happened with a client. It's just the fear in your head.
Right. And you have to know that fear is your enemy. And you have to treat it as such. Don't give fear room in your life. Stop making it a companion, because it literally is designed to paralyze you and to stop you from living out your life's purpose. That is its goal. And so you've got to be an enemy to it. And so you got to pull out all the stops, because you really do know
Mm-hmm.
What's on the inside of you is just that you've been taught to not trust it. And the more you don't practice trusting what's on the inside of you, it gets dull. And then your ability and confidence to move on that decreases, and then it becomes non-existent. But I'm here to tell you, you can revive it. And so I really hope that people identify what their purpose is and start anew. Start tomorrow, January 26th.
Mm-hmm. Start right now, today. Make your list and plan tomorrow. Come up with a plan for tomorrow that will set aside some time for yourself so that you can work on these things and get some
Right.
action item done. And even if it's something little tiny, small things, you got to pat yourself on the back for that too.
You really do. And one of the things you can do, because sometimes you just can't go full blown into something that's a purpose, volunteer with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like find a way to give your time and talent to it and see how that evolves and turns into something for you.
Yeah, if you're willing to just have the power to do something for free. I was talking to you about how my son does all this tech work online and he does these videos and he edits. And not once does he ever ask for money for these things. I'm like, you probably should be. He's like, no, I just love it. I don't really care about that. I just love it. I'm like, oh, he's so sweet.
But guess what? When you're doing what you love, the money finds you.
Right. It's chasing him down. He ain't chasing the dollar. The dollar's chasing him.
The dollar's chasing him. That's how it works. And that's why it's so important that we encourage our children to go after their purpose.
Yeah.
They're not gonna starve. They're not gonna be homeless. Not on your watch.
No.
You already know that. You're not gonna see your baby homeless. So let that go. Let your fears. Don't give your children your fears.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think fear, for some of us, fear is such a strong presence in us that it really does stop and to shrink that fear down, to make it small. Not that you want to totally eliminate fear because sometimes it will save your life, but you want to shrink it down to where you, the healthy you, is stronger than this fear because the fear is not a healthy part of you. And so you have to be stronger than your fear and say, thank you, fear, for protecting me, but go away now because I got things I got to do. You know, you got to somehow be friends with it to neutralize it and to make it, because it really is your enemy once it gets too big.
Yeah, no, right. No, I like that you said that because sometimes for some people that fear is fuel for them, right? And they're able to kind of stabilize and be like, oh no, like, oh, and counteract it. And so, yeah, making peace with it and putting it in its proper perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But also, I think another thing that people can do and look at purpose is that your purpose is your gift
Yes.
to the world. That is your gift because it was so freely given to you and now you give it back. And so if you can look at it that way, that'll be great.
That's your God-given talent. That's the reason why you were born. We're all born so that we can give our gift and learn from all of those things. And
That's it. And people don't recognize that when you know that this life is not about you,
mm-hmm.
it's magic, the sense of fulfillment that comes over you when you know that everything that you have and that's on the inside of you is so that somebody else will be okay. You in turn are okay. And it just works to make everybody okay. Can you imagine if everybody was operating in their purpose?
Oh,
How happy a place this universe would be? If we were all giving and making it about others, because what I lack and you're operating in your gift towards me, I benefit.
yes.
I in turn give that to somebody else. We're all doing that. That's powerful.
God, I really think in my utopian mind of what you just laid out, there will probably be no wars. There'll probably be a lack of anger in people. The war that's going on is the war inside of you. You know, you're fighting these battles internally. And of course, that's what's going to present to you externally. And how great is it to just let those battles go, sit inside your purpose, and just know this is where the faith comes in. You just know it's going to work out because how could it not? God
Right.
wants things to be great for you, and you have to really believe that.
Yes, yes. So I hope this catches on.
I do too. I feel like every day, and I'm happy to say that I've gotten to the point where every single day when I wake up, everything I do, I feel like I haven't worked a day in my life in a very long time because I am having fun, kicking it, doing what I know I need to do. And I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I know I'm on this way and I'm thinking about and living in my purpose and in my truth. And only God knows where it's going to take me.
Wow. Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I am Dr. Alicia. We never introduced ourselves. I'm Dr. Alicia. You can find me on Instagram mostly with coaching with Dr. Alicia, Dr. Alicia. Mm-hmm.
And I am Felice Hightower Brett, licensed clinical mental health counselor. And you can find me on Instagram as the Be Big Coach. I'm also Real Talk with Felice on all other social media platforms. So I really hope that you got something out of it. And thank you. Thank you for sharing some time with us.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for sharing with us. Bye bye.
Bye.